You are watching Frankly Speaking Sports, live from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Jets are on the road for week one, and what a way to start the year off as they are in Carolina to take on the Panthers in one of the best revenge games of the season. Sammy D getting a shot right out of the gate to face the team that sent him packing.
Darnold takes the snap, drops to throw, dumps it over the middle. Frank Gore's got it!
The Jets are on the road for week one, and what a way to start the year off as they are in Carolina to take on the Panthers in one of the best revenge games of the season. Sammy D getting a shot right out of the gate to face the team that sent him packing.
Darnold takes the snap, drops to throw, dumps it over the middle. Frank Gore's got it! And that should secure the Jet victory.
Darnold's new digs are supposed to shed light on how good or not good he really is. He didn't have much O-line in New York. His receiving core wasn't the greatest. You can't say that about Carolina's pass catching group, especially their top two wideouts.
The long bomb to DJ Moore. Victory! Victory!
So what kind of pass D is Darnold going to be up against? The Jets struggled to slow down most air attacks last year, and they didn't make any significant changes to their DB unit.
Corner of the end zone. Gesicki got it. Touchdown, Miami.
3 of the 4 starters from their secondary are back, so it's a first look at what new head coach Robert Saleh's defensive touch could mean to Gang Green's D.
So you won't be great, you got to be detailed. You can't be half-assed.
Still, this should be a defense Darnold can take advantage of through the air, especially if he gets help from his run game. CMC making his return this week after missing most of 2020.
Give to McCaffrey. Trying to get around the right side. He does. McCaffrey leaps. End zone. Oh, touchdown.
He might not have an easy time picking up yards along the ground, though. The Jets' one strength on D last year was stopping the run.
Quarterback sneak. Baker Mayfield pops the ball up on 4th down. The Jets are going to win the game.
And this will mark the return of C.J. Mosley at linebacker, who skipped the 2020 season.
And picked up Mosley. He'll take it in.
But let's not kid ourselves. The guy most Jets fans will be locked in on in this contest, number 2 overall pick Zach Wilson making his regular season NFL debut.
Zach Wilson taken with the 2nd overall pick. The Jets fans here in attendance are excited to see the new face of the franchise.
We'll get to see who Wilson develops chemistry with early.
Loops a pass down the right sideline. Wide open at the 5. It's Crowder. Wide open is Cole for the touchdown. At the 30, at the 20, puts on a move to the 15, to the 10, another move to the 5.
Hard to say how much time Wilson will have, though. New York's O-line was not ranked high by PFF and did not finish high in sacks allowed either.
An ugly finish, an ugly Jets loss.
And that's where another first-rounder comes in, Elijah Vera Tucker joining left tackle Mekhi Becton, their first pick from last year, who had a really good rookie campaign, and they will be tested in this one. Carolina has Brian Burns coming off a 9-sack season.
And Top Stafford from behind, another sack from Brian Burns.
And they signed Hassan Reddick, so their pass rush should be better than it was last year.
Sacked at the 13, Hassan Reddick.
As for the secondary, Wilson will be trying to complete passes against. It will feature the number 8 overall pick, J.C. Horn, who's hoping to try and help the Panthers contain passing attacks better than they did last year.
Cousins fires to the end zone. Touchdown!
A game between a 5-11 squad and a 2-14 squad doesn't usually drum up this much excitement, but games like that don't usually have such a juicy QB storyline to them. They can say this is just another game on the schedule, but we know both those guys want this one a little more than the other ones, right? So who comes out on top? Does Darnold exact revenge, or does the Rook make the Jets brass look smart right out of the gate? I'm the game preview guy, or VO guy, if you're into the whole brevity thing. And I love being back in the saddle with you all. Get your analysis and predictions into that comment section, and while you do that, we will roll out with our predictions panels picks, which this year will be 10 large every game.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Frankly Speaking Panthers. And holy cow, wake up, everybody. It's week 1 of the NFL season. Begins just about 23 hours from now with the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Tampa Bay to play the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I'm happy to have you with us tonight. Boy, do we have an incredible show for you. We're going to allow you to call in. For those of you listening on different platforms, please go ahead, share this to your timeline. Go ahead, share it to your timeline. We're going to go ahead and actually, while you folks are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and share it to my timeline as well so that we're all sharing it. And boy, do we got, like I said, a lot to talk about. We are about 15 minutes away from having the great Carolina Panther, former Pro Bowl quarterback Steve Berline will be joining us live right here on Frankly Speaking Panther. But, the first thing we want to talk about, folks, is we want to talk about this game, which is a game that usually doesn't have this much significance versus an interconference New York Jets. But boy, when you look at this game and you look at this team that the Carolina Panthers have put together, holy cow, look at all the former New York Jets. It starts with assistant offensive line coach Tony Soprano Jr., and then you have Sam Darnold, Robbie Anderson, Justin Burns, Pat Elfine, Frankie Louvu, Julian Stanford. All of them are former New York Jets in some way or form. And just amazing amount. But, the main thing at hand, the main thing everybody's talking about is this game. And I think if you all just take a deep second and calm down, catch your breath, this is a game that the Carolina Panthers should win. And they should win. Don't get me wrong. The New York Jets have rookie quarterback Zach Wilson. They did add wideout Corey Davis, who had 984 yards and 5 touchdowns with the Tennessee Titans last year. And they also added running back Telvin Coleman, who ran with Atlanta for 800 yards last year. But this is a New York Jets defense that is terrible when it comes to the secondary. Terrible. Sam Darnold should have all day to throw this football at will this Sunday at 1 p.m. at Bank of America Stadium. And, the one thing about the Jets is they're very good against the run. And, of course, we have Christian McCaffrey back, so that should really dictate how well our running game does on Sunday, because the Jets were 4th in the league, believe it or not, against the rush, but they were one of the worst last year in the secondary. Meanwhile, that defensive line of the New York Jets is going to have to be contained with Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle who had 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles last year. And they also added Sheldon Rankins from the New Orleans Saints. So, it's going to be a game. But when you look at this team, first of all, you look at some of the history on this. The first win the Carolina Panthers have ever had in their career, ever in their existence, in their history, came against the New York Jets back in 1995. The Panthers are 4-3 all time against the Jets. But this is a team, when you look at it, everybody talks about the offense of this Carolina Panther team. We talk about Sam Darnold, who I think is going to do very well at the quarterback. Of course, the running game, when you have McCaffrey and you have Chuba Hubbard, and then you look at all the weapons you have from, Thomas to Tremble at the tight end position, and you keep looking around and you see Moore and Marshall, just to add a few. This is an incredible offensive team for the Carolina Panthers, and they're not going to have any trouble with the Jets. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold throws for over 300 yards, 3 or 4 touchdown passes in this game, and just rocks the house at Bank of America Stadium. The Jets allowed 276 yards per game through the air last year, which was 28th in the NFL. And the one thing everybody keeps talking about, this offense of the Panthers, how good, the type of ability do they have, how good they can really be, how scary they can be. But I'm going to tell you something, Carolina fans, and listen to me real good. This team has the potential to be dominating on the defensive side of the ball. When you look at this team, first of all, it's the youngest team in the NFL at 25.67 years per player's age. So the youngest team in the NFL. If you look at this team from week 11 to week 17 last year, they were 6th in total yards on defense, 9th in total points, 7th in sacks per pass attempts. This defense was dominant the second half of the season. 8 of the 11 starters from week 16 are still on the roster this year for the Carolina Panthers. They led the NFL with turnover margin with +7 last year. Okay? And then when you just look at this team, Brian Burns is in 2 seasons has 16 and a half sacks. Jeremy Chin, as a rookie, had 116 tackles. The only player with at least 100 yards, 1 sack, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble return, and a defensive touchdown in Jeremy Chin. Then you add J.C. Horn to this mix. My goodness gracious. Don't just talk about the offense on this team. The defense is much, much better. Unbelievable. So for all those folks giving all the props to the offense, which you should, because the offense has the ability to be that dominant, look out for this defense. I will not be surprised if this team ends up a top 10 team in defense in the National Football League. They are that good. They're good up front. They're good at the cornerback position, and they're going to show a lot of people. I think Jeremy Chin is incredible. Of course, Spider Burns is just amazing. This team, and I picked them to win 9 games this year, and we'll see if I have them before we get back into it. But if you watch the show Monday, I went ahead and did my NFC South picks, what everybody's record would be in the NFC South. And I came up with the Buccaneers at 12-5, the Panthers at 9-8, the Saints at 9-8, and the Falcons at 6-11. That's what I believe will be everybody's final record in the NFC South. And only time will tell. And later on, after our interview with the great Steve Berline, we will go ahead. We will do our picks for the NFC South, for all the NFC South games for week 1. We will go and pick who we think will win those games, obviously starting with tomorrow night with the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For all you fans watching on different sites, on different platforms, on different views, if you can please do me a favor, go ahead and hit the share button. Hit the share button. Let everybody get an opportunity to not only watch this show and this Game 1 preview between the Panthers and the Jets, but let's go ahead and in about 5 minutes, we're going to have former quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, also won a Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys, Steve Berline, will be joining us. So we are really, really looking forward to that. But, as long as Sam Darnold just plays mistake-free football, this shouldn't be a game that the Panthers win. It should be a game that they dominate. They really do. And when you got a young quarterback that's never played in a football game in the National Football League, he's going to be nervous, and the key is put as much pressure on him as possible. After the interview, folks, with Steve Berline, we're going to go ahead. We will open up the phone lines. We have to have it where one person calls at the time. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. You can go ahead and you can make the phone call, and we will get you on the air and answer your question to the best of our ability. We'd love to know what you think, what your opinion on this Carolina Panther team is. What are you looking for from a record standpoint for the Panthers to go ahead and produce this year? All those questions could be answered, and at least predicted on this show tonight. The phone number is on the bottom. It is 813-922-9810. That's right. 813-922-9810. We will go ahead. We'll take your calls. Remember, one call at a time. If somebody is on the phone, wait till they hang up, and then you can go ahead and call as well. We are about 4 minutes away from having Steve Berline joining us live on Frankly Speaking Panthers. We'll talk about what he thinks of the upcoming Panthers season, maybe some surprises that are going on in the NFL, and so on and so on. Then after that interview, we'll go ahead and we'll go over the Cowboys and the Bucs. The Eagles play in Atlanta. Green Bay is actually playing, it says, at New Orleans, but that game will actually be in Jacksonville. We'll talk about those things. Any game that affects the Carolina Panthers in our division, we will talk about after the interview with Steve Berline, which we are, let me make sure, just moments away from him joining us. For those of you on our line, we want to thank you very much. If you can please go ahead, share this to your timeline. You can leave comments here. If there's a question you'd like me to ask Steve Berline, please let me know. Leave it in the comment section, and I will do my best to ask him. As far as you calling in after the interview, we will open up the phone lines, and we will allow you to make phone calls. So we'll be more than happy to do that for you. As I look at this, all right, let's go ahead, folks, and we got about 2 minutes before Steve comes on. Let's go ahead, take a quick station break, and allow our stations to identify themselves. You are watching Frankly Speaking Sports, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. And that is right, we are live from Charlotte, North Carolina. This weekend, 1 p.m., Bank of America Stadium. It's the Carolina Panthers hosting the New York Jets. And we've been talking about this game now for about 20 minutes. We're about 2 minutes away from having former Carolina Panther Steve Berline on with us. If you folks can go ahead, share this to your timeline, I would surely appreciate it. If you're on a page, please share it to your page and allow everybody the opportunity to watch this terrific preview show that we have tonight for you. Love to have you leave some comments in regards to the Panthers. How do you think they're going to do this year? What do you think their record would be? For those of you that did not see, I went ahead and broke down what I thought the records of every team in the NFC South, which would include the Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers, what their record would be this year. And when you look at it, this is what I came up with, folks. This is a breakdown of the NFC South with the Buccaneers being 12-5. And I tell you what, folks, when you look at the Panthers' schedule, and people say, you really think the Panthers can win 9 games? Larry, you have them splitting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions, which definitely on paper, the team looks like a much more well-balanced overall team. But the one thing you got to remember about this schedule, folks, is that the last 2 out of 3 games of the season, so week 15 and week 17, the Carolina Panthers play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you say, well, Larry, how does that play into the picture? The way that plays into the picture, folks, is that at that time, if the Buccaneers are doing as well as everyone expects, those games may not have any meaning for the Buccaneers week 15 and 17. So I would not be surprised if the Carolina Panthers, whether it's home or away versus the Bucs, week 15 or 17, actually steal a game from the Buccaneers because the game may not have a meaning for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at that time. So pretty interesting. You know, the time you beat Brady is always, they say, at the beginning of the year in September. And I know the Panthers were hoping to maybe play them early in the season. But when you look at it and you look back at it, you're right. He doesn't lose in December. He loses in September. But playing them the last 2 out of 3 games could really have no meaningful impact on Tom Brady. And for all you know, in one of those games, could be the last game, he might not even play. So when you look at it, it makes a lot of sense, folks. 9-8. Is that enough to get the Panthers into the playoffs? You never know. You never know. This is a team that could be scary this year. You know, there's always, I think somebody said, and I'm not sure if it was, I think it was Colin on the Herd. I think I was listening to the Herd, Colin Coward, and he said that there's always 6 teams that did not make the playoffs the previous year that end up making the playoffs the following year. Why can't that be the Panthers? You know, when you look at this division, it could be a very tight division for second place, at least, you know, between New Orleans, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and the Carolina Panthers. But for those of you folks that are out there, and I'm listening to one of the local sports shows here in Charlotte yesterday, and they're all getting upset because of ESPN saying that the Panthers could have the worst record in the NFL. They might get the first round pick. Guys, forget that crap. Forget it. Okay? Those guys on ESPN are never right. When are you going to wake up? They still, in the game of baseball, believe the Yankees are going to win the AL East. They did the whole season, preseason. Then nobody gave the Rays credit, who are up by 9.5 games over the Yankees. The people at ESPN, they make money to predict. If they were that accurate on predicting, they would be going to Vegas and spending their money on a lot better things and making more money than they already made. That's obviously not happened. So the chances of ESPN being right is slim to none. Do not worry about them. Ignore that stuff. The best thing you can do is laugh your ass off at the end of the year when this team has a winning record. Thing to remember this year. Hold on one sec, folks. All right, and we're going to go ahead and wait till 9:30. We just had Steve call, said it's going to be 9:30. So those of you tuning in to see Steve Berline, he will be on in about 6 minutes. So we're 6 minutes away. But, you know, don't worry about the predictions. I mean, if you look at this game, everybody except one person, okay, picked the Panthers. It don't matter what people pick. The game is played on the field. And if the Carolina Panthers, the only real question, and it's a big question, folks, that I see on this Carolina Panther team is how well that offensive line can hold up against the other team's defensive lines. I am so happy that the Panthers don't play the Bucs till later in the year. because they'll be tired and the game will be not meaningful for the Bucs. But this is a team that if they just strengthen up this offensive line, they could battle for a wild card position. And, if you folks do not believe in this team, then get the hell out of here, okay? Because this is probably one of the better defenses that you have had in a very, very, very long time. It could be very dominant. We could possibly have two of the best defensive teams in the NFC South with the Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, as long as they keep their head on straight, will be successful. Right now, the only game that we are thinking about is that game coming up at Bank of America Stadium this Sunday at 1 p.m. versus the New York Jets. No other game. Game 2 versus the Saints, we're not even thinking about. We wait till Sunday night after that game, and we can start talking about that game. But right now, you got to beat the Jets. A win is a win. People will say you win, you win. I don't care what the score is, but I would like to go ahead and see Sam Darnold take care of this very, very poor secondary of the New York Jets and really, really give the fans of Carolina something to be proud of, because this could be a game where he goes off. And he's expecting to him and Robbie Anderson, especially playing their former team, the New York Jets. Jets have a new coach in Saleh. Matt Rule is a second-year coach. So, a lot going on here. It's a good game for the Panthers to start off with. After our interview with Steve Berline, we're going to go ahead and talk about the other teams who are playing, which is everyone, who they're playing, how it affects the Panthers, and what it will mean to the division. We are about 5 minutes away from having Steve Berline, former quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, joining us. In the meantime, for records last year, if you didn't know, the Jets were dismal, 2-14 last year. The Panthers were 5-11. But out of the 11 losses by the Carolina Panthers, and we mentioned this before on other Frankly Speaking Panthers shows, is 9 of those losses were with a touchdown, within a touchdown or less. So now you step up that defense. It's a little bit better. It showed you what we could do week 11 through 17. Darn, this could be a more dominant team than anybody is giving the team credit for. So I'm looking forward to the season. Want to thank Ra. I think it's Ra for joining us tonight. And Ra, I agree with you. 100%. I think this is not just going to be a win by the Panthers, although I'll take a win any way we can, Ra. But when you look at this team, I think the team can be dominant in all facets of this game, and I really think we can dominate. I wouldn't be surprised if this score ends something like 31-10 or 38-10 with the Panthers winning. And you're right. The quarterback position was, very, very poor last year. Teddy Bridgewater didn't do a good job. Sam Darnold will be fine. The key to a quarterback is play smart football and don't turn the ball over. Okay? If you remember the Baltimore Ravens, the year when they won the Super Bowl, a lot of people don't remember who the quarterback was. Yes, that defense was dominant, and they won with that defense. But when you look at that offense, it was Trent Dilfer that was the quarterback. The reason they won, Trent didn't throw the ball away. He didn't fumble the ball. He didn't throw interceptions. He played mistake-free football, and allowed his defense to go out there and win games. Once again, for those of you joining us, let me see if I can get that out of here. I did my predictions for the season on what everybody's record will finish up at in the NFC South. I broke down the games. I broke down game by game. And this is what my predictions are for the NFC South. I have the Buccaneers finishing at 12-5, the Panthers and Saints at 9-8, and the Falcons at 6-11. So it should be a fun ride in the NFC South. And I'm going to also tell you something else. Two things, folks. And we'll talk about this a little bit after the interview with Steve. But a thing to remember also is that last year, it was the New Orleans Saints that won the NFC South. Okay? Let's see. I'm reading some messages. Yeah, and another great point by Ra. Thank you so much for contributing tonight. The running game will ease Sammy D. And that's the thing. When you have a balanced team, the running game does two things, guys. The running game, what it does when McCaffrey is on, it's going to pull that front seven up forward. When you pull that front seven up forward, what you do is that second level opens up the passing game. It does, and not only does it open up the passing game in the middle, about 10 yards down the field, it opens up opportunities to go ahead and throw the deep ball as well to Robbie Anderson. And you know, great point by Ra. If you go ahead and you open up that running game starts performing, the sky is the limit. And like I said, it could be a beautiful afternoon for Sam Darnold. Okay, Ra, you think 12-5. And you know, a couple of things go our way, Ra. That you know, that could be. That could be. Let's see. You know, when you look at these games, you know, momentum brings success sometimes. You're winning, and, you know, I don't want to go through their whole schedule because I'm a firm believer you take one game at a time when you're playing in this league. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you start winning, it becomes contagious around every single player. You'd be surprised when you start winning how much better the offensive line starts playing. You know, everybody's knocking this offensive line. I heard this same thing last year in Tampa Bay, how their offensive line will never allow Brady to get to the Super Bowl. There's something about having a quarterback that your offensive line believes in that makes them step up even more when they are playing the game of football. And if you see Sam start performing, you're going to see these guys doing everything in their power to make sure he's protected and not getting hit. Love to get a couple of more people leaving comments about what they think of the Carolina Panthers. We are a couple of minutes away from having Steve Berline on. After Steve joins us, we will open up the phone lines. Phone number is on the bottom, but we're going to wait until after the interview with Steve. All right, so he's coming on right now. He's just letting me know that he is going ahead and coming on right now. Yeah, and I think our defense, guys, when you look at Chin and you look at Burns, and I mentioned those guys, but you look all over this, I think the one thing you're going to see on Sunday is Zach Wilson being pressured so much, he's not going to know what hit him. I wouldn't be surprised if this team gets 4 sacks roughly, on Wilson. This is a game where they want to prove something. A lot of these guys we mentioned earlier, if you didn't hear, but has ties to the New York Jets. Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson, obviously. Offensive line, assistant OL coach, offensive line coach, Tony Soprano Jr., safety Justin Burns, offensive lineman Pat Elfane, linebacker Frankie Louvu, and linebacker Julian Stanford all played with the Jets. So all of them have, this is a redemption game. And, usually you go out Carolina playing the Jets, But let me tell you something. This game has a lot more meaning because of the number of players that have played on the New York Jets. But I don't see Zach Wilson, his first game, if they're smart, if Brady is smart, our defensive coordinator, and he should be blitzing. I'd be blitzing this guy 40% of the defensive plays this weekend to really rattle him. Remember, when you're a quarterback from college to the NFL, the game moves a lot faster. And our guest Steve Berline will be able to tell you that because he quarterbacked at Notre Dame before coming in the NFL. But this is a faster game, and I think Zach Wilson, everybody has this Zach Wilson, and I think down the road Zach could be a very good quarterback for the New York Jets. Don't take me wrong if there's any Jets fan listening, but there is a learning curve. There is a big learning curve. I've never been a big fan of rookie quarterbacks starting in the NFL. I think they should watch a couple of games, see the pace of the game from the sidelines, then gradually work their way in. And I think that's why you see so many of these young quarterbacks that come in that start end up getting hurt. For those of you that think Zach Wilson's going to bring the New York Jets to the promised land, or Trevor Lawrence is going to bring the Jaguars to the promised land, or you think Mac Jones is going to bring Bill Belichick back to maybe Bill Belichick. But anyway, what I'm saying and the point I'm making is that it is a different game than the college level. And like I said, I'd love to get more feedback. I know we got a bunch of you on. Steve's on his way on right now. He just texted me. They had a little issue, so they're coming on right now. But if you can share this to your timeline, and then after the interview, we open up the phone lines. We keep talking Panther football, and we'll talk about some of the other teams only in the NFC South, guys, on what we expect from them this week, including the Tampa Bay Dallas game tomorrow night. So let me go ahead and take some of this stuff off the... There we go. All right. And let me make sure as Steve is coming on, I got everything turned on for him. Well, maybe. All right. So Steve just texted me. He's on his way. He's getting it set up right now. But I'll go ahead. Keep leaving comments, guys. I love the comments. I love the interaction. If you're a Carolina Panther fan and you're not excited about this upcoming season, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. But, some of the people around here are very, very negative. And I think you need to start getting that winning attitude, guys. The one thing, if those of you that missed that great show last night on College Football Tuesday, we had the great legendary college football head coach, Jackie Sherrill, on with us, and we talked about the 12th man, how big of a role the fans play in the success of a team. And if you folks do not get to Bank of America Stadium on this Sunday and get loud and root for your team, and when I say get loud, that means you stand your ass up, you cheer, you get loud, you start going crazy on third downs for the defense. They need you, and they will perform if you show them how appreciative you are of them. It happens. Trust me, fans. This team is a lot better than you are giving them credit for. As Steve comes on, I'll tell you a quick story is that, I lived in Florida for over 30 years, but when we first came to Florida, we lived near Jacksonville. So that year, we went to Jacksonville games. What did Jacksonville do? They went to the AFC Championship game, and they lost to the Patriots. But they got there. Then what happened is we had to move to Arkansas for 6 weeks. The Arkansas football team went crazy last year, made a bowl appearance, and played unbelievable in the SEC. What do we do after that? Well, last year, we moved back to Tampa Bay. What happened in Tampa Bay? The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. Well, guess what, folks? This year, I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina. What does that mean? Only time will tell. But if past history is any example, we are looking for an exciting year this year in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Carolina Panthers. For those of you right now, we may have time for one phone call. If you want to go ahead and call in, the number is on the bottom of the screen, 813-922-9810. Once again, that's 813-922-9810. And you can go ahead, call in. We'll answer any questions you may have. And then if Steve comes on while we're on, we'll go ahead and get to you afterwards. But, go ahead. Don't be shy. If you want to call in and talk on Frankly Speaking Panthers, we are here for you. So, like I said, we are moments away from having Steve Berline on with us. I don't want to start with the other games in the NFC South that, pertains because I don't want to cut it off in the middle. So we'll give Steve a few more minutes. He texted me, said he is getting his iPad set up, and he is ready to come on. So we'll give him a couple minutes. And let him know we are definitely ready. All right. Let's see. Steve. Okay, I'm coming on now. Okay, that's good. All right. There he comes. He's coming up right now, folks. I see it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to introduce to you in our Frankly Speaking Panthers studio, former NFL quarterback. He's been to the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys, owns many season records here in Carolina for the Panthers. Let's welcome in Steve Berline. Steve, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing great. How are you, bud?
I'm doing great, buddy. First of all, I want to take the time to thank you very, very much for. I know you got a busy schedule over there, but thanks for joining us on Frankly Speaking Panthers tonight.
You got.
All right, let's see if that microphone's working. Can you hear me?
I'm here. I apologize.
Okay, I just want to. Hey, let me ask you before we get to anything else, Steve. I was thinking of you Sunday night. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm watching Notre Dame versus FSU. What do you think of Jack Cohn, the quarterback of Notre Dame?
Well, I was impressed for the first game. I had covered him a couple times from, from Wisconsin, and I looked at him as kind of a guy that was just really a game manager, a guy that would not have a whole lot of real big days. He never really, in those games that I covered over the last couple of years, he never really did anything that really impressed me that much. But I did like his leadership. I liked his poise. And I thought that he did a good job of, completing passes. He was up close to 70% during his years at Wisconsin. But, I really didn't have high expectations. And he went out there the other night and really had a great football game. 4 touchdowns, 350 or 60 yards. And I think he completed about 75% of his passes and made a lot of tough plays that he had to make for Notre Dame to win that game. So I think it was a great start for his final year in college, but his first year at Notre Dame. We'll see if he can keep the pace up.
Now, Steve, we're about 20 hours away from the start of the NFL season. As an NFL analyst, what are some of the early season storylines that we'll be watching?
Are you talking about NFL as a whole?
Yes.
Well, I would say that, the 2 teams that I'm really excited to see this year, and that I'm if I had to pick a Super Bowl preseason, who I think might end up in there, I'm going to go against Brady one more time. I seem to do it every year, and I keep getting it. But I really like the Rams from the NFC with Matt Stafford at quarterback, and I love the Buffalo Bills from the AFC with Josh Allen. So those are the 2 teams that I think, if I were predicting right now that I would love to see that Super Bowl, that would be the one. And so there's a lot of other, we could talk about a lot of different things in terms of NFL in general. I'll let you lead me, but, obviously the Brady story, again, can he do it again? Now at 56 years old, whatever he is. But he just continues to amaze. There's all these young quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Are they going to have a chance to come in and make an impression this year? Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are guys that are going to go into the season as starters. A lot of young quarterbacks out there are going to get a chance to make a name for themselves early. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. This time of year, there's a lot to talk about. If there's anything in particular you want to get into, though, I'm happy to do it.
Steve, let me ask you this from a quarterback's perspective. You played college ball at Notre Dame and went to the NFL. Let me ask you this. Do you like the idea of a young man like a Trevor Lawrence, a Trey Lance, a Mac Jones, Justin Fields, these guys coming out and getting put right into position to start the season from the college transition to the NFL? Or do you think, the best case scenario would be them maybe sit a couple of games and learn the speed of the game from the sidelines before going in?
Larry, this is going to probably surprise a bunch of people, but I always have felt, and I still do, that if you talk to any NFL coach, any one of them, if they could create their ideal situation for a young quarterback, it would be, I don't care whether it's Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning or any of these other guys that came out as the number 1 or number 2 pick. I think any coach would say, I would love to give them at least half of a season, if not a full season, to really learn and kind of learn what it takes to be a professional. That would imply that they had a veteran quarterback on their team that was, experienced and efficient enough to hold down the fort and get them through a game. Maybe an older quarterback on his last legs, or a kind of a Steve Berline type of quarterback that is it more than capable of holding down the fort and giving you a chance to win a lot of games, maybe even get into the playoffs and win, go on a nice run. But let that kid rest, ideally. I think they all would prefer that. Aaron Rodgers did it. Phillip Rivers did it. Brett Favre did it. You can go down the list of a lot of quarterbacks that had that luxury of really learning how to not only play at the NFL level, but how to prepare and how to carry yourself as a professional and get settled in, get into a routine of what it takes to get yourself ready. And I think all young players would benefit from that, instead of being thrown out there early, thrown out there to the wolves and having to try to figure it out on the move. But, it seems like this new NFL, they're throwing them all out there right away.
Absolutely.
And, Trey Lance and Justin Fields are 2 great examples right now, right? So Kyle Shanahan would love to have Jimmy Garoppolo have a good year, a really good year, and then they can decide after this season if they want to trade Garoppolo and hand it over to Trey Lance, or if they want to run with it again for another year. Same with Andy Dalton in Chicago. I know for a fact they would love Andy Dalton to play well and keep the team in the hunt, let Justin Fields learn. But my gut tells me, by the fourth or fifth game that both those guys very well might be out there.
Now, let me ask you, we talk about colleges, whether no matter what field you're in, whether it's sports or whatever major you're going for, it's supposed to get you ready for the next level of life. So let's talk about football, relating into football. My question to you, and you're an analyst of college and of NFL. You played in both. But why do you see the game so different in college than the NFL? And it's a two-part question. If A, college is supposed to get them ready for the NFL, why don't we find maybe more NFL experienced guys coming into the college ranks of coaching to develop them into NFL style players?
That's a great question. I think that there's a lot of different ways you can take that as well. I think every case is different. Every player has different talents, both physically and mentally. The ability to translate and understand and comprehend and process material to where you can make those quick, efficient decisions, because the NFL game is much quicker than the college game across the board, and the margin for error is much smaller. And if you make a mistake, every mistake is magnified and taken advantage of. So physically, obviously, there's a big adjustment. If a quarterback is not able to make the quick decision and then deliver the ball on time with accuracy, there's a process. And sometimes it's the footwork. Sometimes it's maybe the release, the delivery. Sometimes it's just the ability to recognize and make the quick decision. Sometimes you're not on a very good team, and that makes a big difference as well. I mean, look at the situation with Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people think, he was the first pick in the draft. He's gonna have a great situation. Well, remember, his head coach is also a rookie in the NFL as well, Urban Meyer. We know the history of college coaches, the Steve Spurriers, Nick Sabans. Go all the way back to Lou Holtz coming into the NFL. The jump successfully to the NFL. So those are all things that kind of factor into it. The situation kind of dictates, whether a kid's going to have success early or not. But also, when you look at guys like Peyton Manning and Troy Aikman, the guys that were thrown out there right from the early days, they got beat up. They went through tough seasons early on, but they were resilient. They were tough enough to fight through it and not lose their confidence. Those are things you can't coach. But not every kid has that ability to do that. Some of these guys, when they get hit or go through a tough experience, it's the first time it's ever happened to them, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they end up folding. So we could talk about a lot of examples of guys like that. But the bottom line is I don't think there's any real reason as to why it works or doesn't work, or why quarterbacks are better prepared or not better prepared today versus the years past.
Steve, let's say you were talking, and I'll give you an example. Let's talk about Carolina a minute. Obviously, Sam Darnold, we'll get into that in a little bit later, but he's starting for the Carolina Panthers. If you had to give a message to PJ Walker and as a backup quarterback, and what you would say to him in the role of a backup about being ready, what kind of message would you give a backup quarterback so they understand the importance of what they're doing, and how by a quick snap of the fingers speed, you could be in that football game?
Well, I mean, I truly think that, people have it backwards. Fans in general have it backwards. They think being the backup quarterback is the best job in the world, right? It's so easy. You just sit there. You don't ever have to play. You just got to sit there and, go through the motions and, pick up an easy paycheck until you have to go in and play. That's when people don't understand how difficult it is, because I went through different periods of my career where I went over a year without even playing a snap of real football. My last year with the LA Raiders, Al Davis, I call it my year in exile. He kept me in street clothes for the whole season, even though I had finished up both the 88 and 89 seasons as a starting quarterback. the 1990 season. We had a little contract dispute. He kept me in street clothes for the whole season. And then I got traded to the Dallas Cowboys and went through 11 games before Troy Aikman got hurt. And I came in with a chance to lead the Cowboys to the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Well, if I fail there, I haven't played for over a year and a half. If I go out and I fail in that situation, that may be the end of my career.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter that I haven't played in a year and a half. It doesn't matter that I haven't gotten any reps in practice, that I'm with a new team, that I didn't go through training camp with the Dallas Cowboys. All I know is that if I didn't produce in that situation, I could very well have been out of the league. And that's what backup quarterbacks have to understand. Your chances are few and far between. So you have to go into every single game, no matter how long it's been, you have to expect to play. And you have to prepare to play. And if you don't have the mental ability to do that, it's going to catch up with you very quickly, and you're going to have a short career.
Steve, how fulfilling is it for any player on a 53-man roster? You know, you have a goal at the beginning of the year. That goal is to obviously win the Super Bowl. How fulfilling is it not just to get there, but to win it like you did with the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, you know, it was an incredible experience. You know, the year we won the Super Bowl, I was Troy Aikman's backup, obviously. So there's a difference between, you know, being the man pulling the trigger and being the guy that was just there in the support role. But it was still an absolutely magical experience, and one that you can't really put into words. You know, every time I look at that ring, I just smile, because I know how few people have those and how hard it is to get one. And then I took a lot of pride in my role in that Cowboys team too. The year before, that 1991 season, I came in as I just talked about a minute ago, and hadn't played in over a year and a half. But we won. The team was 6-5 at the time, and we had to win out 5 straight games in order to make it to the playoffs against a tough schedule in the NFC East back in those days. Well, what we did was we won 5 straight. We went from 6-5 to 11-5. With me as the quarterback. The last 2 of those regular season games, Troy Aikman was healthy and ready to play, but Jimmy Johnson stayed with me, the hot hand, and gave me a chance to go out there and play, and we won. And then we went to Chicago for a playoff game, and we won. He stuck with me again. We beat the Bears in Soldier Field to get to the playoffs for the first time in over 10 years for the Cowboys. So that was the year, I think, and Jimmy Johnson's always been really good about giving that year credit and me credit. He's like, that's the year the Cowboys learned how to win. And then the following year, when we won the Super Bowl, it was just kind of the magnification of that. And so I know I had a big part in that run, and I was very proud of that.
Let me ask you, before you went to Carolina, while you were in Dallas, I mean, were you able to learn a lot from Troy?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I got a little phone call there for some reason. Sorry about that.
Oh, is that okay? I don't know if you heard the question. I'll repeat it. Were you able to, those years you were before you went to Carolina, did you learn a lot from Troy and Dallas?
Well, Troy and I, he was a little bit younger than me, so I was more experienced than him in the NFL. So, if anything, you know, I'm proud of the fact that maybe I helped him learn how to be a quarterback in the NFL. You know, I'm not taking credit for what Troy Aikman became. Trust me. You know, I knew when I watched him in practice that he was going to be something special. But I do think that the quarterback room that we had in Dallas with Norv Turner, who I think is one of, if not the greatest offensive coach ever, he was the offensive coordinator. Troy was the starter. I was the backup, and our third guy was Jason Garrett. So that's a pretty good quarterback room right there. And we all helped each other. And I learned an awful lot by just listening to Norv and watching Troy execute and getting ideas from Jason Garrett. We all kind of picked each other's brains and got better because of it. And so, yeah, that success we had. I went from Dallas to Arizona, which was another story. And then from Arizona to Jacksonville,
Right.
which was a story, and we don't need to get into that one. But then on to Carolina, where I finally got my chance to really be a starter over a few years span, and I think I acquitted myself pretty well when I got that opportunity finally. Going to the Pro Bowl after the '99 season and leading the NFL in passing, those were things that I was very proud of.
Yeah, and you should be, because 99, you just go off. I mean, you have an incredible year. You still hold many single-season records for the Panthers. Besides the fact that you started, obviously, what was the main thing that propelled you to your success that year?
I was hungry. I had been craving my whole career to get myself into a stable situation and to have the opportunity to be a starting quarterback over, an extended period of time. And when Kerry Collins quit 4 games into the 1998 season, Dom Capers came in and said, it's your team. Let's see what you can do. You've been around a long time. You've been waiting for this opportunity. Let's see what you can do. And I finished out that 98 season. Unfortunately, Dom got fired after that season because we started out 0-4 and we could never really get out of the hole, but we competed and fought. But they brought in George Seifert, and George Seifert didn't believe that I was going to be his quarterback. He brought in Jeff Lewis and was going to hand him the job, but I played really well. I led the NFL in passing that year, and went to the Pro Bowl. And George was just looking for an opportunity to get rid of me. But I played so well, and he even told me after the season, he said, hey, I wasn't expecting you to have the kind of year you did. I wasn't thinking you'd make it through the season, but I couldn't pull you out. So, I think that motivated me. I knew that he didn't plan on me being his guy. I knew that he didn't believe in me, didn't trust me. So that was kind of a chip on my shoulder and a motivator for me. I wanted to show him and everybody else that if they just give me a chance, I can do it.
Steve, I gave you the following equation and asked you if this was true or false. Tell me what you would tell me. 1987 is the year. Round 4, 110th pick equals 17 years in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it was. That doesn't hold a candle to what Tom Brady's done as a 6th rounder. But by the way, my whole career I played when quarterbacks got hit, and when quarterbacks could get hit.
That's right.
Hit low, could get hit in the head, could get landed on. Receivers also could get hit all over the field, and it's a different game now. And I think it's all good, and it's in the interest of players safety. There?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, I keep getting these phone calls. I apologize. But the difference was that, I can't even remember what the question was.
We were talking about 17 years in the NFL.
Yeah, as a 4th round draft choice, the goal was to make the team initially. And when I made the team, the goal was to make it 5 years in the NFL. And then in the NFL, after 5 years, I was like, man, maybe I can get to 10. That'd be unbelievable if I get to 10. But all along, I was planning on, starting my broadcasting career, much sooner than I actually got, was forced to do so. But, when I got to 10, I was like, boy, I feel good. I'm still looking for my chance to really make a name for myself, but I can play at this level, and I really want to get another shot at it. And, I got through 17 years before my body finally told me it was time to walk away. But as a 4th rounder coming in, and remember now, Larry, there's another point to that. After my junior year at Notre Dame, which Jerry Faust forced me to play with a shoulder that was completely I was surgically repaired late in the spring. I was not ready to play my junior year at Notre Dame in 1985, but it was his last year. I was the only quarterback with experience, and they basically made me play. I had such a bad year that year that I wasn't even on the draft board, and the draft was 12 rounds back in those years. So it was a 12-round draft, and my production and my physical health was so bad after my junior year that no team even thought I was capable of playing in the NFL. And then Lou Holtz came in my senior year at Notre Dame and gave me a chance to get myself healthy, back in shape, and I moved all the way up to being a 4th-round draft choice. So I was very proud of that, and the 17-year career, no one can ever take that away from me.
No, definitely can't. And let's talk about this upcoming year. A couple questions, then we'll let you run. What teams, because every year they say in the NFL 2 things. Number 1, it's difficult to repeat. And number 2, there's always those teams that didn't make it last year, 42 teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before that could make it this year. What teams do you think have the ability to turn it around and possibly be playoff teams this year?
Well, I gave you what I thought for my Super Bowl.
Right.
As far as teams that didn't make the playoffs that have a chance to make the playoffs this year, well, let's go through it. Let's see. I think in the AFC West, that's a strong division, top to bottom. Now, I think any one of those, or one of those other 3 teams, the Broncos, the Chargers, or the Raiders, even can make that jump. The Raiders got to 8-8 last year, and I really think they can get to possibly 9 wins, and looking in down that playoff berth as well. We'll see. I think other teams that maybe jump out to me, I like the Colts made the playoffs last year, right? I really did like them with the Carson Wentz move. I still think if he can be healthy, they can be a really strong team and make a run deep into the playoffs. I think they're built to win right now, but they were not a team from the outside looking in last year. Why don't you give me a few teams, and I'll tell you if I think they got a chance, because I'm
all right. And I was going to do that. How about the San Francisco 49ers? Can they come back? I mean, injury plagued last year. I mean, probably half that team was hurt last year. Do they have a chance to go back to 2 years ago?
No doubt. That's a very, very talented football team, and I love Kyle Shanahan as a coach. I've known Kyle since he was 5 years old. His dad, Mike Shanahan, coached me my first starting opportunity with the Raiders back in 1988. So I love Kyle Shanahan. I love the talent on that football team, both sides of the ball. If they are healthy and if Jimmy Garoppolo plays well, they can definitely be a factor in the NFC, no doubt about it.
Okay, how about the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East?
I think the Cowboys have an opportunity, as every team does in that division every year. If they get to 9, they're probably going to win that division. And I think the Cowboys can do that. Obviously Dak has a lot to say about that. But what people forget, and this is a point that I make a lot. People say, well, if the Cowboys didn't lose Dak last year, their season went down the tank. Well, with Dak in this game, the first 4 games of the season, what was their record? Do you remember? They were
1-3.
1-3, and the only game they won was the game in Atlanta when Atlanta muffed that onside kick. That's the only game that they won in the first 4. So, Dak, even though he was putting up numbers, they were getting behind in every game and really looked like a bad football team. So they have a lot of talent. I think Mike McCarthy in his second year, regular offseason, going through the OTAs and training camp, I think they'll be much better. And I do expect them to probably be the best team in the NFC East.
Okay, one more team. Could be a surprise for some people. The New England Patriots.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. With the rookie quarterback, everybody's all excited about Mac Jones. Trust me, he's going to have as many tough days as he has good days this year. And that team, I don't think, is strong enough right now around him. Just like with unsteady or inconsistent quarterback play last year with Cam Newton, that held that team back significantly. I just don't think Mac Jones can produce week after week over a 17-game schedule now to give them a chance at the playoffs. Now, he's he's obviously won a lot of big games and he's played pretty well through the preseason. But you and I both know preseason football is not regular season football.
Right.
And you get into November and December when it's getting cold and your body's taking a beating through the course of the season. It's a different ball game. It's a different animal. I just don't see it happening.
All right, and then before we let you run, we have to talk about the home team here, the Carolina Panthers. How do you think the Carolina Panthers, and I know a lot of people are giving them a lot of credit. The big question comes up with the offensive line. We understand that. And Sam Darnold. But this is a young defense that I think does not get enough credit for what they did the second half of the season last year. A lot of people don't realize the Panthers, out of their 11 losses, 9 of those losses were by a touchdown or less. How do you see this season playing out for Carolina?
Well, number one, you can see I'm wearing my colors right here. So
I'm with you, buddy.
Well, yeah, I got you. But so here's my thoughts in general, all right? With Christian McCaffrey on the field, guess what? The whole team is better. The offense is better. The defense is better because when he's on the field, they're converting third downs. They're making first downs. They're controlling the ball, and the defense gets to rest, and they're not on the field for as long and as many plays. I do think they have a very good young defense, underrated defense. Last year they played pretty well the second half of the season. With their offense not playing very well. Now, here's the big question mark. You got some talent. We've mentioned Christian McCaffrey. You've got Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and who's the third wide receiver they got this year?
Terrence Marshall they just drafted.
Yeah, Terrence Marshall. And I can't remember who the other guy. They lost Curtis Samuel, but I thought they picked up somebody. But anyway, the point is, Sam Darnold, is he an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater? And I really thought, in my opinion, based on the body of work, I really thought that Teddy Bridgewater deserved a second chance this year because when you look at the offseason he had last year with a completely new rookie head coach who did not have a normal offseason or a normal training camp, Teddy Bridgewater was in a very difficult situation. Then he loses his best player in the first or second game of the season. It was a very difficult situation. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to do well in Denver this year. You mark my words on that. The question mark is whether Sam Darnold can take advantage of his new opportunity. He's got the talent. He's got the ability. I really think Carolina is going to be a great place for him. He's going to be out of the spotlight of the Big Apple in New York City, and he's going to have a chance to really focus on his football and be in a city where they'll appreciate him maybe a lot more than they did in New York. So if he can get his confidence going, I think it could be a great, great situation for both he and the Carolina Panthers.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I want to first of all thank you so very, very much for – I know you've been busy. I've been trying to get you on a couple of weeks now. I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Well, you're a very persistent man, Larry Franks, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad we did it. It was a lot of fun,
All right, my friend. Be safe, and let's go Panthers.
Go Panthers. That's right. Take care.
All right, my friend. Be safe. That was Steve Berline, former quarterback, Carolina Panthers. We're going to, before we go through some of that, let's see. All right. All right, that's he answered those questions. All right. Now let me get this off, and then we're going to so once again, we're going to just go through the games in the NFC South this week, and then we're going to wrap it up. For those of you listening, I gave my NFC South predictions earlier in the show, and this is what it was. These are the records that, frankly speaking, Panthers came up with when we went schedule by schedule on how the NFC South would finish up. I had picked the Bills to go to the playoffs versus the Buccaneers, I think, and the Bills as the teams to beat. I do think the Titans are real close there in the AFC, but I have the Buccaneers going 12-5, the Panthers going 9-8, and the Saints 9-8, and the Falcons 6-11. Now, when you look at the games this week coming up, and Rod, that's a good point. That's who I think Steve was talking about. He might be injured the first week, so there's a good chance that Shea Smith may not play the first week for the Panthers. We should find out that answer tomorrow at 2 p.m. when the depth charts come out. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. But when you look at the games this week, I will end with the Panthers and the Jets. But let's start off with tomorrow night's game, Dallas versus Tampa Bay. Couple of things I want you to know. On paper, Dallas is a tremendous team. They're a tremendous team. I'm just looking at if I have any notes. Dak Prescott is back. Elliott is healthy. They have an unbelievable wide receiver core. If you're going to beat Tom Brady, the time to beat Tom Brady is in September, not in December. So by the Dallas going ahead, you got to ask yourself, how much is Tampa Bay going to have that Super Bowl hangover that a lot of teams seem to have and lose that first game sometimes? Now, is Tampa Bay a better team than Dallas? Absolutely. Tampa Bay is probably the best well-balanced team of any team in the entire NFL. They got weapons everywhere. But let me tell you a couple things about Tampa Bay that you need to know. Tampa Bay does not have a great running game. They have the ability to have a great running game. When you look at that Tampa Bay running game, Lenny Fournette and Ronald Jones, they didn't go off until the playoffs. The entire season, actually, it got to a point where Bruce Arians almost waived Leonard Fournette during that 10th, 11th game of the season. They were not happy. They went off in the playoffs. I'm not so sure they can do that again for a whole season, but only time will tell. So the running game is a big question mark. Number two, that cornerbacks came to play, that defense came to play in the playoffs. But this is a team throughout last year that gave up a lot of big yards in the passing game to a lot of different quarterbacks that were not high-profile quarterbacks. You look at Heineke when he was with Washington last year in that playoff game, looked like an all-pro quarterback versus that defense. The defense has the ability. It showed you that against Green Bay and New Orleans in the playoffs, but they weren't that great during the regular season at the corner positions. So that's going to be a key in this game. This is a game that I believe Tampa Bay should win. Now listen to what I'm saying. Tampa Bay should win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas ends up on top. So I think Tampa Bay is the better team. I think they should win it, but don't be surprised if Dallas comes out ready to play and surprises America. Next game is probably one of the uglier games. It's Philadelphia versus Atlanta. You got to give, Matt Ryan. I mean, I love Matt Ryan. It's Matt Ryan versus Jalen Hurts. Julio Jones is gone, but they got Calvin Ridley, and they added Kyle Pitts. The Eagles' defense last year gave up, I think, an average of 26 points per game. So it should be an interesting game. The thing that's going to be the key here is the offensive line of Atlanta. 89 sacks for Matt Ryan's been sacked in the last 2 years. But this is a game I am taking the home team, Atlanta. Okay, and let's see. Then I think the last game here is, there it is, Green Bay at New Orleans. Aaron Rodgers. This is a game, Green Bay is a great team. Jameis Winston has his work cut out for him. They got Alvin Kamara, but this is a team. They of course they got Taysom Hill as well, but they don't have Michael Thomas, and not having Michael Thomas limits them to more of a one-dimensional style game. And I don't think you can have Kamara lean on Kamara the entire game and win this game. I do believe Jameis Winston is going to have a terrific year this year. He may even have a Pro Bowl type year. I just don't know. And the thing that's going to keep New Orleans in this game is that unbelievable defense. But at the end of the day, I think Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is going to be too much for the New Orleans Saints. All right. The last game, the Carolina Panthers versus the New York Jets. I really think in all facets of this game that the Carolina Panthers are a better team. I don't think there's any questions about it. Steve made a good point. Can Sam Darnold take advantage of being put in a situation with a good team? And he definitely has weapons. If Smith is healthy and you add that to Marshall and you add that to Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, this is an incredible offensive team when you put a healthy Christian McCaffrey into it. This team should win big. I'm picking the Panthers 31-10. All right, we got about, in our special show, about 9 minutes left in the show. Let's see if I have a call-in number here. If anybody wants to call in, give their opinion on the Carolina Panthers, how they'll do this season, what they're expecting, what their record may be, or talk on any NFL football. We're going to give you the next 5 minutes to call in. The number is on the screen, 813-922-9810. Once again, that's 813-922-9810. For those of you just tuning in, doesn't matter if it's live or on the replay. There's a special hour-and-a-half show goes to 10:30 tonight because we already previewed the upcoming game with the Panthers and the Jets. We talked about the other games in the NFC South. We had an unbelievable interview with Steve Berline. So for those of you folks, we got about 5 minutes left in the show. If you want to leave some comments, we'll get to them. If you want to call in at 813-922-9810, we'll get you on the air live. We'll talk about the Carolina Panthers, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Bank of America Stadium. If you haven't got your tickets, get your damn tickets. Get out there, get loud, stand up, be proud. This team is going to be special this year for the Charlotte, Carolina area. And David, you make a good point, David. And I want to thank David for watching the show tonight. And it's very hard for a team to repeat. And you look at the Buccaneers, remember something. Every single person on that Buccaneer team came back to the team. In some cases, you look at that good, and some cases not so good. Everybody around you is getting better. They're getting better, yet the Buccaneers are staying the same. So we got to see if anybody's reached the point where they can catch the Buccaneers. Number two, that strong defensive front seven that the Buccaneers have. Usually when you say, well, they're a year older, they're playing together, it's a good thing. But I don't know how good it is for this team. They are much older. The Dominic Sue cannot have much left in the tank. Shaq Barrett is a beast. But I'll tell you one thing, for all the fans out there, whether you're a Buccaneer fan or not, if Vita Vea gets hurt, this team could have issues on defense. The reason why they won the Super Bowl, and I know one guy does not win a Super Bowl, but damn it, he played a big, big part in it, was Vita Vea stocking up that middle and giving those big guys the opportunity to give that pass rush on the edge, which helped them immensely. So Vita Vea staying healthy is the key to that team winning. All right. Been a fan since 95. Wow. And remember, we mentioned earlier, the first win ever by a Panther ball club was versus the New York Jets. The first win ever back in 95, David. So, some good things happened. They won a game back then. So that is definitely good. All right, we give it a couple more minutes, see if we get any calls or any more comments. Then we're going to wrap it up. Want to remind you all that Frankly Speaking Sports will be on Monday. The way our show works is simple, folks. Monday, Frankly Speaking Sports. Tuesday is our College Football Tuesday show. Wednesday, every Wednesday, right here, folks, on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. It's Frankly Speaking Panthers. If you're a Panther fan, this is definitely your show. Last week we had Stephen Davis on. The week before we had Joe Person, who covers the Panthers from the Athletics. Tonight we had former quarterback Steve Berline on. So every single week we'll try to get a former Carolina Panther or somebody within the media to come on. And like next week, we play the Saints. So we'll try to get my good buddy John Hendricks, as long as everything's okay with his home in New Orleans right now because of that hurricane. We'll try to get him on, and he'll give us a rundown on the New Orleans Saints playing the Panthers so we have an idea of the matchup. Do I think, good question here, Sammy D, 4,000, if you figure it out now, guys, remember there's an extra game this year. There's 17 games. So if you take 4,000 divided by 17, that's an average of only 235 yards a game. I don't think that's a tough feat anymore. To get 234. We may see somebody this year. It could be Tom Brady. I don't know. Nothing surprises me about that guy. But, I think we can start heading for the 5,000 mark for some of these guys. So it's going to be exciting, folks. The one thing, everybody, let me take this down here a minute. One thing you got to remember is Sam Darnold played on a very, very bad team in New York. Very bad team, okay? He had terrible coaching, terrible players, nothing around him, no weapons, no running game. They got Le'Veon Bell, and Le'Veon Bell didn't do crap there in New York, okay? They did not have they had a decent rush defense, no secondary. Okay? This was a team that was not good. The team he is with now, the Carolina Panthers, are a much better team than he's ever played for. Okay? So we should be excited. We should be looking forward to the new regime under Sam Darnold. Well, ladies and gentlemen, come this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time at Bank of America Field, a lot of our initial questions will be answered. And I'm looking forward to it. I know everybody in the area is looking forward to it as I try to find this. There we go. Okay. So it should be fun. We're looking forward to it. First of all, I want to thank Steve Berline for coming on our show tonight. Incredible guest. I really do appreciate that. Before I leave, I'll look at the comments one more time. But, it should be fun. Don't be surprised if you see, a deep bomb from Arnold to some Sam. God, I get these guys now. From Sam Darnold to Arnold, who is a tight end, and don't see him be surprised if he goes deep to Robbie Anderson once or twice in this game. Looking forward to it, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, to all the Panther fans out there, stand up, get loud. Let's bring home a W this weekend. Until Monday night, this is Larry Frank, Frankly Speaking Panthers.